What's happening, you crazy carnivores? Pitmaster Shane D back again with another crazy recipe. And this week we're talking about how to do the easiest ribs ever. So go grab your donut, go grab your coffee, come on back here, and we're going to jump in and we're going to dispel a lot of myths and rumors and a lot of fake news and a lot of drama concerning those crazy ribs. Ready? Let's do it. Okay, great. You got your coffee, you got your Dunkin' Donuts, you're ready to go. Grab your pen and paper and let's take some notes because it's going to be all about 4 lines of stuff for the actual recipe. And then we're going to talk about some of the junk science and some of the just stuff you don't need to do when you're cooking a good pork rib, okay? This applies for baby backs, it applies for St. Louis cut, it doesn't matter. I've got you covered here. So this week I did the ultimate easy rib. So let's just start with the recipe first. What'd you do, Shane? Well, I just put rub on them. I set the grill at 250. I ignored them for right at 5 hours. I know, right? You're like, what else? There's got to be something else. That's it, guys. That's it. I wanted super bark on these ribs. I wanted a lot of flavor, and I don't always sauce my ribs, so that's something to keep in mind. I don't love a saucy rib always, even though I'm a saucy kind of guy. Sometimes I just want a lot of bark and a lot of, crunch and texture, and I want a little more spice than sweet, and that's what these are all about. So I just wanted a simple rib, keep the calories down, still cutting weight, still on the pain train, right? And something that was easy, something I could just ignore. I didn't have to wrap, I didn't have to baste, I didn't have to spritz, I didn't have to babysit, none of that. Listen, these grills, if you got a good one, you just better walk away and ignore it for 4 or 5 hours and it do what it's got to do, right? Doing its thing. So, all right. What do? Prep your rib as usual. If you don't know how to prep a rib, man, there's 1.5 million recipes out there and videos on YouTube showing you how to do it. Yeah, I'll do one too eventually, but not here today, okay? What does it take to break down a whole spare rib into St. Louis cuts? Well, about 3 cuts and the silver skin. What does it take to prep a baby back? Pull the silver skin or don't. Some people don't even pull the silver skin. That's fine. That's your preference. Most of the meat's up on top of the bone anyway. And, when you bite it, that silver skin will pull off. And I've even cooked them silver skin on and pulled it after the fact. We're not flipping these ribs, so it really doesn't matter. I will say, more so on baby backs, that heavy silver skin does block some of the smoke from getting in, especially if you never flip them. So all that, coming up from the bottom. So, I just simple prep on these. These happen to be St. Louis cut. They happen to be Smithfield brand, which I'm not always the biggest fan of because some of their ribs have they've been basically brined and they can be a little salty. These happen to be on sale. I got these ribs for like $7 a slab, so whatever. Figure they make for good eats during the week, and that's exactly what I used them for. So pull them out of the pack, put them on the smoker, hit them with a coat of rub. The rubs, I actually used two different rubs I used. This one I happened to use, I think it was a coat of Meat Church's Honey Hog and the beef rub. Those two go together really well, but you can totally use Gorilla's AP rub. You can use any rub you want with that beef rub, but you need something that's got some salt, something that's got some sweet. But that beef rub, if you ever want to add bark to anything, I built that beef rub to make bark. You hear me? 100%. It makes bark. It makes more bark than a house full of chihuahuas, y'all. It just brings it, right? House full of chihuahuas. Come on, that's pretty funny. Imagine the mailman going by, got 30 little dogs going nuts. That's how much bark. That's how much bite that rub brings to the table. It's not just for beef. I built it to make that kind of bark on brisket, but it's a great savory note and it works anywhere. So don't be afraid to use that other places, okay? So 1 coat of Meat Church, 1 coat of the Gorilla beef rub. I put a heavy coat down now. I laid it to it. And these ribs didn't look like much while they were cooking, right? Because you're like, man, the color may be off and it's not quite right. But you're not really doing it for that. You want that ultra dark, almost burnt looking bark at the end. So don't sweat that stuff in the middle. Just ride it out. Cook them until they're tender. Set the grill at 250. Ignore it, right? Shut the grill, walk away. Don't even come back and look at it for at least 3.5, 4 hours. If you've got really thin ribs, they may be done in 4 hours. But most ribs, hear me? Most ribs are done in about 5 hours at 250. Okay? That's no wrap. That's just straight up. Let them cook, let them ride. No flip, no drip, no spritz, no nothing. Let them ride. 250, right? 5 hours. Okay? These are actually a little overdone at 5 hours. That's okay because again they're just eating ribs and man they were beautiful. Had this crusty bark on the outside. You could kind of tap on it and it had that just perfect sound. But when you cut into them, they're just almost mush, almost like a shoulder. If you had a really good barked up shoulder, it was a lot. Oh my dog hears me talking about ribs. I always give her rib bones when I'm eating. She loves them, so she's like ribs. I like ribs. Hook a brother up. Anyway, so you're gonna hear her groan at me throughout this, I imagine. Anyway, 250, 5 hours. They had a beautiful bark. I went to slice them. The crust on the outside is a little hard, but when I got through, they were just gushy. I mean, man, more juice than a whole pack of Starburst or Juicy Fruit. I mean, they just brought it. They were beautiful. Something about the weather that day, I don't know. It was a perfect day for ribs. And that's all I did. I can't take any more credit. I can't make it any more complicated than that. Some people, they're like, you got to do 3-1-1, 3-2-1. What does that mean? 3 hours unwrapped, 2 hours wrapped, 1 hour unwrapped again to make a good rib. You got to put parquet butter on them. You got to put apple juice in them. You got to use peach nectar. You got to use pineapple juice. You got to do this, got to do that, got to blah, 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 blah. No, you don't. No, you don't. Now, for a competition rib, a good sweet rib, if I wanted to change this up, here's what I do, y'all, and this is what we sell all the time and when we cater, because you know why? Products are expensive, so I have distilled this down to the least amount of product possible to make the best rib possible. You want to make a good competition tasting rib that you can serve? Here's all you got to do. Smoke 3 to 4 hours. Again, 225. I stick on 235. I cook a lot of stuff at 235. So 235-ish, about 4 hours, 3 hours. If you like the color, you can wrap them. And what do you put in your wrap chain? I know you got like 1,200 secrets you put in your wrap. I don't anymore. For my wrap, it's brown sugar and maybe a little bit of real butter, but it's mostly just brown sugar. I'll wrap a little early because I know I'm going to open that package up at the end and let it get a little more smoke. But I'll wrap it about the 3 hour mark once it's got a lot of good smoke. And as soon as those ribs, the bones start to pull, the meat pulls back from the bone, that's when I open it back up and then I'll start saucing it. That's all I do. I keep it simple and it works. I will, coming out of that wrap, re-rub a little bit. I'll hit it with a little more rub. If I want to, if I need to, if I decide I want a little more punch, I will. But you don't have to. And that is the simplest rib ever. If you want a little more of that saucy, sweet rib, that's the way to go. If you want all the bark, don't wrap it all. It's no big deal. The truth is, when you put 150 different things in your rib wrap, you really run the risk of making those ribs taste like ham. And I don't know about y'all, I love the taste of rib. It's somewhere between bacon and awesome. That's why I buy ribs. That's why they're my favorite cut of meat. So I don't necessarily want to taste like ham. I love ham, but I love good ham. And when you make ribs taste hammy, it's not good ham. It tastes like fake ham because it's, fake ham. So watch what you put in your wrap and watch how much you put in your wrap, okay? You don't need a ton of stuff. Those ribs, if you're wrapping them on time and not too late, are going to make plenty of juice, okay? It's going to make plenty of its own moisture to baste and steam in, so you don't got to go nuts there. These people that have an ultra complicated rib process, and I have one too, and it's on the Gorilla site. That's the competition ribs. That's to win money. That's fine, but that's not how I cook ribs every day. Not even close. The way I do my competition brisket, not even close to how I do my brisket at home. Because I don't do hardly anything to my brisket at home other than cook the dang thing. 300 injections, 900 steps. No, none of that. I basically hit it with some salt the night before, put some rub on it, put that thing on at 250, 235 to 250 for 6 hours, come back, wrap that thing in about an hour and a half, it's done, rest it for another hour, boom, put it on the table. That's that's my brisket recipe, y'all. That's it. It's simple because it's just good eating brisket. Same here. This is about good eating ribs. Okay. What are some other rib myths? There is a flavor difference between baby backs and St. Louis. I think the St. Louis ribs are a little sweeter. Baby backs have more meat on them. Depending on what I'm doing, depends on what I prefer. If I can get spares already cut into St. Louis cuts, I always like spares personally. They're just easier. But man, the prep on baby backs is easier because you just pull the silver skin and throw them on. Man, when I got to trim down a bunch of spare ribs into St. Louis cuts, it sucks. It gets old real quick. So if we're catering, I do baby backs. If I'm eating for enjoyment, I'm probably buying spares. What's another one? I'm trying to think that these. I do like spritzing sometimes. It has its place because it helps the rub melt in a little bit. But again, if you're going for the ultimate bark, you don't have to do it here. Don't worry about it. You can see the smoke ring I got on these ribs, man. Just nothing but salt smoked meat, y'all. Salt smoked meat. Why do we keep coming back to this? Salt smoked meat. Because it's all it needs to be great. The right amount of salt, aka seasoning, rubs, etc. That's what I put in my salt category. The right amount of smoke, i.e. the right technique to get smoke to the meat. Knowing how to cook it, knowing how to leave it alone. That's all under my smoke category. And the right meat, i.e. I knew how to trim it. I bought good quality product. And I knew what the meat needed as far as the process under the smoke side. That's it. That's it. That's all you got to have great food. Doesn't have to be complicated. And that's what this channel's all about, to bring you uncomplicated, really good food. So again, this is a real short one. I wanted to keep it really short. There's not much I can say about these ribs, right? 250, 5 hours, put some rub on them, ignore the bloody things, and let them turn out amazing. If you do this and the angels don't have that kind of moment, try again. You did something wrong. When you do a rib right and you've let it cook long enough and that fat is rendered perfectly and it's barky on the outside, it's almost got a crunch on the outside, but it's just this unctuous, sumptuous meat on the inside. I just don't know it gets better than that, y'all. It's the same thing I love about beef ribs. When you do beef ribs that way and they get to that point, that's what makes them special. So shout out to Black's Barbecue in Texas for having the best damn beef rib I've ever eaten my entire life. I would fly back to Texas tomorrow and go get some and fly right back. That's how good these things are. I have never had another better beef rib. I wish I could cook them that way. They schooled me. I thought I knew something about beef rib. Mine's good, but those are just another level, y'all. In Texas, go hit up Black's Barbecue. They're amazing. Get the beef ribs. I don't know about nothing else there, but I can tell you their beef ribs are amazing. So I got to up my game there, and I got to bring it. Got to figure some more stuff out. So, all right, guys. As always, do me a favor. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Share this with your friends, and let them know that ribs don't have to be that complicated. As always, I'm Pitmaster Shane D. You can hit me on Twitter, the Facebook, all that stuff at ShaneDBBQ.com. Go back to my videos. You've seen I've given my email address about a million times already, so you know what that is as well. If you need to get in touch with me, feel free to tweet me, man. I always reply to direct messages. I always reply to tweets when I see them. It may be a little delayed because, man, the Facebook group takes up a lot of time. I'm always answering questions. I got asked the other day, you seem minorly annoyed by some of this stuff. It's not that I'm annoyed at all. It's that I'm super busy. Sometimes I'm a little snarky and make jokes, but I'm never annoyed. I'm thankful for every question I get because that means I'm helping somebody, and that's what this is all about. Barbecue is about love of your neighbors and your family and helping people, and that's why I like doing this. So, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And as always, Pitmaster Shane D. We'll catch you next time.